What if the leading causes of death aren't just, inevitable consequences of getting older?
Right, like something you just have to accept.
Exactly. What if it's actually a daily choice that you make? I mean, it sounds intense, I know. But going through the research for today's deep dive, one fact completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, the centenarian stat.
Yeah, even if you look at centenarians, so people who live past 100 years old, 0% of them actually die of old age.
Right, 0.
100% of them die from disease. It really forces you to reevaluate what aging actually means.
It totally flips the script on how we view our health span. I mean, we're so culturally conditioned to accept that as the years go by, our bodies will inevitably break down.
Like it's just the unavoidable price of admission for a long life.
Exactly. But the epidemiological data and the clinical trials, they tell a vastly different, far more empowering story.
And that's exactly what we're unpacking today, using a truly fascinating book as our guide. It's called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger.
Yeah, such a groundbreaking book.
Our mission today is to dig into the medical literature, to extract the daily habits that actually reverse chronic disease, taking you from just surviving to truly thriving.
And well, this isn't just an academic exercise for Dr. Greger. His entire mission was sparked by a deeply personal event.
Right, his grandmother.
Yeah, when he was a kid, his grandmother was diagnosed with end-stage heart disease at age 65. She'd already had multiple bypass surgeries. She was confined to a wheelchair with crushing chest pain.
Wow.
And the medical establishment essentially sent her home to die.
But she didn't.
No, she didn't. She entered an early lifestyle medicine program. It was a radical dietary change centered entirely around whole plants.
And what happened?
Within 3 weeks, she wasn't just out of the wheelchair, she was walking 10 miles a day.
That's wild.
I know. She lived another 31 years until age 96.
She got 3 extra decades to spend with her grandson just by changing the chemical information she was sending her body through what was on her plate. It's incredible. Today, we'll explore 7 of the book's biggest lessons. After every lesson, we'll also learn one small practical habit you can begin today.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Let's begin with key takeaway number 1.
Okay, let's do it.
Key takeaway number 1 is the concept of self-healing. The central idea here is that your body can repair itself when we stop subjecting it to repeated injury.
Right.
But I need to push back just a little on this right out of the gate. I mean, is the body really just sitting there waiting to heal itself from decades of damage?
It is. And the book uses this brilliant analogy to explain why we often don't see that healing happen in real time.
Okay, what is it?
Imagine you whack your shin really hard on a coffee table.
Ouch.
It gets red, swollen, hot, painful. Now, if you just leave it alone and go about your life, it'll heal naturally. But what if you kept whacking your shin in the exact same place on that coffee table 3 times a day, like at breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Well, it would never heal. You just have a permanently destroyed shin.
Exactly. And if you go to the doctor complaining about your terribly painful shin, they might write you a prescription for heavy painkillers.
Right, to mask the pain.
Yeah, you go home, you keep whacking your shin 3 times a day, but hey, you feel so much better with the pain pills on board.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
That is exactly what happens when we take certain medications, like nitroglycerin for chest pain or statins for cholesterol, without addressing the underlying diet.
So it relieves the symptom, which is great for your comfort, but you're still biologically re-injuring yourself with every meal.
Precisely. The pill is just a chemical Band-Aid.
So if we stop the re-injury, the body just goes back to work fixing things. What does that actually look like inside the body?
Well, think about the classic example of smoking. Medical research shows that within about 15 years of quitting, a smoker's risk for lung cancer approaches that of a lifelong non-smoker.
Right, your lungs literally go to work clearing out all that accumulated tar.
But every single morning, a smoker lights up, they paralyze those little sweepers in the lungs and interrupt that healing process. Dr. Greger points out that our arteries act the exact same way.
Really? Our arteries can clean themselves out?
Yes. The inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, is desperate to heal. When patients with severe heart disease switch to a whole food plant-based diet, their bodies literally start dissolving the arterial plaque away.
Without drugs or surgery?
Without drugs or surgery. The arteries begin opening back up because the body finally has a break from the daily injury of saturated fats and inflammatory compounds.
The body just wants to be healthy all along. We just have to get out of its way. I want to put this into practice today. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 1. Replace inflammatory foods with whole plant foods.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, it works because you're simply stopping the repeated whacking of your arteries. And almost anyone can start today just by swapping out one highly processed snack, like a bag of chips or a candy bar, for a piece of fresh fruit.
You're giving your vascular system a tiny, vital window to start its natural magic. That makes perfect sense. If our bodies are that desperate to heal, it makes you wonder if getting sick in the first place is as natural as we think. Now let's move to key takeaway number 2.
All right.
Key takeaway number 2 is that disease is preventable. The core idea is that many of our most feared chronic diseases are not an inevitable part of aging.
This is a huge one.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The book compares getting heart disease to getting a cavity.
Yes, the cavity analogy.
Is getting heart disease essentially the same thing?
Hmm?
Because frankly, getting older just feels like the machine wearing down.
It's a striking comparison, but the historical and anthropological science completely backs it up. I mean, if you look at human remains from 10,000 years ago,
Right.
long before the invention of the toothbrush or fluoride, people essentially had no cavities.
None?
None. They didn't brush, they didn't floss, but they had perfect teeth.
Why?
Because candy bars, refined sugar, and highly processed carbohydrates hadn't been invented yet. Dr. Greger argues that heart disease is similarly a consequence of our modern diet, not an inevitable function of time or just the machine wearing down.
So it's not the age of the car, it's the type of fuel we've been running through the engine.
Exactly.
That's a bold claim. But there is some pretty staggering historical data to back it up, right? The sources talked about autopsies from Uganda.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the difference. So in the 1950s, a network of missionary hospitals in Uganda did a massive comprehensive study.
Okay.
Out of 632 autopsies on the local population, they found only one small healed heart infarct.
Wait, one. Just one out of over 600.
Just one. And when they compared that to 632 age and gender-matched Americans in St. Louis during the same exact time period, the Americans had 136 myocardial infarctions.
So the American rate was over 100 times higher for our number one killer. How is that biologically possible? Was it genetics?
No, it wasn't genetics, it was the fuel. The Ugandan population at that time ate a diet practically overflowing with fiber centered around vegetables, whole grains, and greens,
Okay, so a very plant-heavy diet.
getting their protein almost entirely from plant sources. When you eat a diet high in fiber and low in saturated animal fat, your body doesn't produce the excessive LDL cholesterol that penetrates the lining of the arteries.
Ah, so the biological mechanism for heart disease was never even triggered.
Exactly. Their plant-centered diet made our number one killer practically non-existent.
It wasn't that they were just dying early from something else. They literally were not developing the disease. I love that. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 2. Prioritize whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and fruits.
Because it mirrors what they were eating.
Right. It works because you're biologically mimicking the dietary patterns of populations that were virtually free these modern epidemics. You're flooding your system with protective, fiber-rich nutrients instead of the artery-clogging fats that drive the disease process.
Okay, so we're keeping the fuel clean to prevent the cavities in our arteries. But what happens at a microscopic level when we use the wrong fuel? Specifically, animal-based fuel. Now let's move to key takeaway number 3.
This is where it gets into some really deep biology.
Key takeaway number 3 looks at animal protein and IGF-1. The central idea is that animal protein can increase something called IGF-1, which may actually promote cancer cell growth.
Right.
But wait, hold on. Protein is just protein, right? We've been told our whole lives to get enough protein. Why does the source matter so much?
It all comes down to how your body reacts to different proteins on a hormonal level. When you consume animal protein, whether that's a steak, a glass of dairy milk, or even egg whites, the specific amino acid profile triggers your liver to release a growth hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1.
Or IGF-1.
Exactly. Now, when you're a child, you absolutely need growth hormones. You need to build bones, muscle, tissue.
Sure, you're growing.
But when you're fully grown, excessive growth signals in the body can be highly dangerous.
Because if you aren't growing taller, what exactly is growing?
Exactly. High levels of IGF-1 can promote the growth of malignant cells. It tells cells to divide, and it simultaneously suppresses a process called apoptosis.
Apoptosis.
Yeah, apoptosis is programmed cell death. It's your body's natural way of sweeping away damaged or mutated cells before they can become tumors.
So animal protein not only steps on the gas pedal for cell growth, it cuts the brake lines on clearing out the bad ones.
It's like pouring Miracle Grow on a garden where you have dormant weeds. The fertilizer doesn't care if it's a beautiful flower or a toxic weed. It just sends the signal that says grow.
Wow. And the book highlights an incredible petri dish experiment about this, right?
This is one of the most visual, undeniable examples in the research. Scientists took the blood of people eating a standard American diet and dripped it onto human prostate cancer cells growing in a petri dish.
Okay. What happened?
Well, the blood fought the cancer a little bit. It naturally slowed the growth down. But then they took those same people, put them on a plant-based diet for a year, and dripped their new blood onto the cancer cells.
You're saying that simply switching to a plant-based diet changed the chemical makeup of their blood that much?
The difference was massive. The blood of the plant-based eaters had nearly 8 times the stopping power.
8 times.
Yeah, but it gets better. They didn't just slow the cancer down, the blood actually initiated that apoptosis we just talked about.
Wait, really?
The plant-based blood literally reprogrammed the cancer cells into early retirement, wiping them out.
That is wild. The food you eat today dictates how aggressively your blood fights cancer tomorrow. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 3. Choose plant proteins, such as tempeh, tofu, and lentils.
Sounds easy enough.
When you do this, your liver's production of IGF-1 drops, and your body actually raises its levels of IGF-1 binding proteins. These binding proteins act like biological emergency brakes, pulling excess growth hormones out of your bloodstream.
And you can make this swap at your very next meal. Okay, so switching our protein source pulls the emergency brake on cancer growth. But what about the other major epidemic we face? What about blood sugar and diabetes? Now let's move to key takeaway number 4.
Let's do it.
Key takeaway number 4 is that fat blocks insulin. The central idea here is that excess fat inside our muscle cells can interfere with insulin function, driving type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
Let's unpack this. If blood sugar is like a vampire that needs an invitation to enter the cell and insulin is the key to unlock the front door, what exactly is gumming up the lock?
It is something called intramyocellular lipid. I know that sounds like a mouthful, so let's break that jargon down.
Please do.
Intra means inside, myo means muscle, cellular is cell, and lipid is fat. Literally, fat trapped inside your muscle cells.
How does it get trapped in there in the first place?
When you eat a diet high in saturated animal fats, those fats enter your bloodstream and can slip right into your muscle cells.
Okay.
Normally, when you digest carbohydrates, they turn into blood sugar, which travels to your muscles for energy. But insulin has to dock at the cell's receptor, the lock, to open the door and let the sugar in.
Right.
When you have too much of this fat inside the muscle cell, it creates toxic breakdown products. These byproducts physically interfere with the insulin signaling pathway.
So the key is in the lock, but because of the fat clogging up the mechanism from the inside, the key won't turn.
Precisely. No matter how much insulin your pancreas pumps out to try and force the door open, your muscle cells can't use it.
So the sugar just backs up in your bloodstream, damaging your vessels and organs.
Yeah, and this mechanism was actually hinted at almost a century ago. In a 1927 study, healthy medical students were put on a fat-rich diet like olive oil, butter, egg yolks, cream.
And what did they find?
Within just days, their insulin resistance skyrocketed, and their blood sugar doubled compared to a group eating a high-carbohydrate diet.
So the fat was actually causing the sugar problem. We always blame the carbs, but it's the fat gumming up the locks.
Right.
But if it happens in a few days, it can be reversed quickly, too.
Arrivingly quickly. Dr. Greger points out that when researchers put type 2 diabetics on a highly plant-based, low-fat diet, within an average of just 16 days, half of them could stop taking their insulin entirely.
Wait, 16 days?
Yeah, and here is the kicker. The researchers forced them to eat so much food that they didn't lose any weight. The reversal of the diabetes happened with 0 weight loss, just by clearing that microscopic fat out of the muscle cells.
That completely shatters the myth that you have to lose 50 pounds before you see health benefits. You just have to clear the locks. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 4. Eat legumes, such as beans, chickpeas, and lentils daily.
Beans and lentils, okay.
The research shows that eating just 5 cups of legumes a week is as effective at slimming waistlines and improving blood sugar control as cutting 500 calories a day.
Wow.
It works because legumes are packed with fiber and resistant starch, which feed your good gut bacteria, help regulate your metabolism, and naturally lower those toxic lipid levels in the muscles.
If clearing the fat fixes the sugar problem, what about the pressure inside the blood vessels themselves? Now let's move to key takeaway number 5.
Another big topic.
Key takeaway number 5 explores sodium and blood pressure. The central idea is that excess sodium raises blood pressure and actively impairs vascular function.
Right.
But I have to ask, don't our blood pressures just naturally rise as we get older? I mean, 120 over 80 gets a gold star at the doctor's office.
We celebrate 120 over 80 in modern society, but if we look at the evolutionary data, a truly normal human blood pressure is more like 110 over 70.
Really?
Yeah, the reason our blood pressures uniformly rise as we age in Western society isn't simply the passage of time, it's decades of sodium overload. Humans evolved eating a tiny fraction of the salt we consume today.
The sources mentioned the Yanomamo Indians in the Amazon, right?
Yeah.
A true no-salt culture.
Right. Researchers found that among the Yanomamo, an elder in their 60s or 70s has the exact same average blood pressure as a teenager.
That's amazing.
They do not experience that age-related spike at all. And it's not just about the long-term chronic pressure in the pipes from retaining water. Even a single salty meal causes immediate direct damage to the arteries.
How immediate are we talking?
Within 30 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, let's unpack the biology here. When your body metabolizes food, it naturally creates free radicals. Think of them like biological sparks.
Okay.
To prevent a fire, your body produces a vital antioxidant enzyme called superoxide dismutase. It acts like a fire extinguisher. But when you eat a high-sodium meal, that sodium physically stifles the activity of your fire extinguisher.
Oh, wow. So without that enzyme neutralizing the sparks, what happens?
Oxidative stress builds up rapidly. The delicate inner lining of your blood vessels takes a massive hit, and your arteries physically stiffen and can't dilate properly within half an hour of eating.
That is terrifying. To think one salty soup or frozen dinner stiffens your arteries before you even finish digesting it.
It's scary, yeah.
But it's also empowering because it means every meal is a chance to do better. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 5. Reduce added salt and choose lower sodium foods.
Just skip the shaker.
Yeah, the simplest way to start today is by sticking to whole, unpackaged foods, which are naturally low in sodium. If you do buy packaged foods, read the label and try to ensure the milligrams of sodium per serving are lower than the calories per serving.
Oh, that's a clever trick.
It's an easy math trick to protect your arteries.
We've talked a lot about the daily choices we make. But if you're listening to this right now and thinking, well, heart disease or cancer just runs in my family, so I'm doomed anyway, you really need to hear this next part. Now let's move to key takeaway number 6.
This is where we talk about genetics.
Key takeaway number 6 is all about how genes aren't destiny. The central idea is that your lifestyle profoundly influences your gene expression and your overall disease risk.
It is a very common fear, being doomed by genetics. But this raises a deeply important point about the science of epigenetics.
Epigenetics, right.
You can think of your DNA as a grand piano. You might have inherited a certain set of keys from your parents. Maybe some keys are prone to playing a bad tune. But your lifestyle, what you eat, how you move, how you handle stress, is the piano player.
So you're saying you have tremendous actionable control over which genes get played and which get silenced.
Exactly. So even if you have the genes for a disease, you might be able to keep them silent. You aren't just a victim of your family tree.
That is so hopeful.
Dr. Dean Ornish and Nobel laureate Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn conducted a landmark study to prove this. They took men with early-stage prostate cancer and put them on a program of healthy living.
Like diet and exercise.
Yeah, a whole food plant-based diet, mild exercise, and stress management. After just 3 months, biopsies showed they had favorably altered the expression of 500 different genes.
500 genes in 3 months.
They literally turned off the cancer-promoting genes and turned up the protective, disease-fighting ones.
And it actually changed their DNA at a structural level too, didn't it? With the telomeres. Let's explain what those are.
Yes, and this is where it gets truly wild. Telomeres are the protective caps at the ends of your DNA strands, very much like the plastic tips on the ends of your shoelaces that keep them from unraveling.
Okay, got it.
Normally, as we age, our telomeres shrink, which leads to cellular aging and death. But after 5 years on this healthy living protocol, the researchers found that an enzyme called telomerase was highly active.
And what did that do?
The patient's telomeres didn't just shrink slower, they actually grew longer.
Wait, they grew. They were actively reversing cellular aging.
Reversing it. Their cells were biologically younger than when the study began.
That is the ultimate proof that you hold the pen to your own medical destiny. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 6. Stay physically active every day.
Simple movement.
Physical activity, especially when combined with a healthy diet, fundamentally alters gene expression. You don't have to be a marathon runner. Starting today with just 22 minutes of brisk walking begins to change how your DNA expresses itself.
Lengthening those telomeres and silencing disease-promoting genes. So we're physically changing our DNA expression, but if we want all the microscopic building blocks to make this happen, we have to get them from the right place. Now let's move to key takeaway number 7.
The final piece of the puzzle.
Key takeaway number 7 is that whole foods beat supplements. The central idea is that nutrients work best together in their natural food matrix.
Right.
I know we're all looking for a shortcut. So if all these plant nutrients, these antioxidants and vitamins are so magical, why can't I just extract them, take a pill, or mix a scoop of a fancy meal replacement powder into my water and call it a day?
Because biological nature is incredibly complex, and isolating single chemicals just doesn't work the same way in the human body?
It's not a one-to-one swap.
Not at all. There are tens of thousands of complex phytonutrients in whole plants, and they work synergistically. They depend on each other for absorption and function. When we try to outsmart nature by extracting just one compound and putting it into a high-dose pill, it almost always backfires.
The sources called it the beta-carotene debacle. Walk us through what happened there.
It's a perfect tragic example. Researchers noticed that populations who had high levels of beta-carotene in their bloodstream had much lower rates of cancer.
Right.
So they decided to give smokers high-dose, purified beta-carotene pills, assuming it would act as a powerful antioxidant and protect them from lung cancer. But the study literally had to be halted early.
Because the pills didn't protect them.
It was worse than that. The people taking the purified beta-carotene pills actually saw their cancer rates go up.
Wow. They went up.
It turns out having high beta-carotene in your blood is just a biological marker that you eat a lot of healthy, dark, leafy greens and sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
When you isolate the beta-carotene, it's actually a relatively weak antioxidant.
Okay, so it doesn't work on its own.
And because it competes for the same cellular receptors in your body, flooding your system with the pill ends up blocking the absorption of far more powerful antioxidants you might eat later in the day.
It sounds exactly like trying to hire a star quarterback to play an entire football game by himself.
That's a great way to put it.
Beta-carotene might be the star player, but without the rest of the team, the thousands of other phytonutrients, the fiber, the enzymes, he just gets crushed by the opposing team and crowds out anyone else trying to help.
That is the perfect analogy. You need the whole team on the field for the biology to work.
I love that. So what's one small habit we can build from this?
Practical habit number 7. Add turmeric with black pepper or broccoli sprouts to your diet.
Oh, whole foods.
Exactly. Instead of taking an isolated chemical pill or expensive supplement, use these whole food powerhouses. Adding just a quarter teaspoon of turmeric with a dash of black pepper or eating a small handful of broccoli sprouts naturally boosts the detoxifying enzymes in your liver using the entire complex matrix of the plant.
Okay, let's bring all of this incredible science together. We've covered our 7 key takeaways. Number 1, the body's profound power of self-healing. Number 2, that disease is preventable. Number 3, the terrifying link between animal protein and IGF-1. Number 4, how fat actually blocks insulin. Number 5, the immediate impact of sodium on blood pressure. Number 6, that genes aren't destiny. And number 7, why whole foods beat supplements every time.
It's a lot of information, but it's so powerful.
And we have 7 practical habits you can start right now. Replace inflammatory foods, prioritize whole plants, choose plant proteins, eat legumes daily to clear your cellular locks, reduce added salt, stay physically active to lengthen your telomeres, and use whole foods like turmeric and broccoli sprouts instead of pills.
If we connect all of this to the bigger picture, I want to leave you with a thought experiment from Dr. Greger's work.
Yeah.
Imagine being a smoker back in the 1950s.
Okay.
The government, mainstream society, and even the medical profession were telling you that smoking was perfectly fine. Your own doctor might have even had a favorite brand of cigarettes.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
On the other hand, you had this emerging, quietly published scientific data showing definitively that smoking caused lung cancer.
But if you waited for the system to catch up to the science, you might have died waiting.
Exactly. It took decades and the unnecessary deaths of millions before the Surgeon General finally issued a warning. Today, we're sitting in the exact same historical situation when it comes to our modern diet.
Wow.
The mainstream message is everything in moderation. But the hard science is already here. You have access to the data today. We have the power to change our family history, reverse chronic disease, and rewrite our medical destiny right now. We do not have to wait for society to catch up.
If you enjoy learning from the world's best medical and health books, subscribe to Mosaic Health 40 Plus Erico.
Educational purposes only. Always consult qualified healthcare professionals for personal medical advice.
This episode was inspired by How Not to Die by Michael Greger and enriched with the author's interviews, lectures, podcasts, and public discussions included in this Notebook LM project. Because better health starts with better knowledge. Books, science, better health. See you in the next Mosaic Health 40 Plus documentary. But until then, the next time you bump your shin on the coffee table, just ask yourself, what else in my body is just waiting for me to stop whacking it so it can finally heal?